we're back, and I feel like I'm in some sort of treatment where I'm having to tell you and admit to you films that I haven't seen before because that's the only way I'm getting through this little Oscar boost that I've been doing. But we're in Oscar season, and I wanted to do some reviews of some films that I wanted to challenge myself and see some films for the first time and talk about them. And that means that I haven't seen these films before. I've only done one that I saw, and that was Vanilla Sky. And I only saw it once and I didn't like it. So it was a completely new experience. But this one's tough. This one I'm going to be judged for having said, I haven't seen this yet, guys. I'm sorry. But it's Dog Day Afternoon from 1975. And I did find this with audio descriptions and I did watch it. And this was a film that was nominated for multiple Academy Awards, including Best Picture and Best Director. Who Sidney Lumet once again making an appearance in my pre-Oscar run-up list here. He also directed The Wiz, which I've already reviewed um, for the first time, and I guess I'm learning also his filmography in the process. It's totally accidental. I did not look up the director. I was just like, I haven't seen No Day Afternoon. I need to see it. Um, and it has Al Pacino, John Carney, Chris Sarandon, Charles Durning. Uh, just there are people in this. It's all you need to know. It's, Carol Kane. I don't know. Just a lot of people that probably made more sense in the '70s to say their names. Um, but Pacino is obviously the big one here, based on a true story. And it did win an Academy Award. It won for Best Original Screenplay. So kudos. Uh, it also was nominated for a bunch of other things. Chris Sarandon managed a supporting actor nomination for Leon, while Al Pacino managed a lead. Um, and if you go through the sort of awards history, the other cast members I mentioned, John and Charles Durning, were both nominated in other places too. This was a film that it had like three potential supporting actors. So it's interesting that Chris Sarandon was the one that they chose, because other awards nominated, maybe two of them or one of them or different ones. And like the Golden Globes, this had BAFTA nominations, which is, I think, actually like the first time that's happened to a film that I've been doing. Um, I think um, maybe Harriet had one. I don't know. I feel like it didn't though. This had BAFTA nominations, so yeah, it was all over the place, and it would have been hard to predict which supporting actor if we were back in the 1976, I guess, so to speak, because it was a 75 film. So if we were in 1976 trying to predict the Oscars, it would be tough to nail down Chris Sarandon, I think, based on the precursors as being the standout supporting actor. But obviously Al Pacino, amazing, amazing performance. Yes, first time seeing Dog Day Afternoon. It's about a bank robbery gone wrong, but not really that wrong. And it's kind of never really explored, at least in the audio description. It never really tells me how they knew. You know what I'm saying? Like, was it the insurance guy coming up to the door? Like, how did they know? Because Sonny seemed really prepared for a lot of things, and they weren't in there that long. And then suddenly there was like, I don't know, every cop within a 4-state range outside the door in like 20 minutes. It's almost like it was a setup. It's very weird. Um, and they don't really, that question is never really answered. It's one of the few things that I didn't like about the movie. There was the fact of, damn, how did they get noticed that quickly? It never just, and maybe it's like a visual thing and lack of, and with the audio description being like missing the hand hitting the buzzer, or what was the silent alarm that was tripped? Like, what was the visual cue that the audience got that we didn't get? Because to me, this was like a lot in a short period of time. I mean, like, everyone shows up, not just, like, one cop car first. Like, by the time we notice they're cops, it's like everyone is there. Like, I mean, they have, like, they're all posted up. They've got, they've got barricades, and I'm like, were you guys prepping for this? Is the police station across the street? Like, what's going on here? Um, Very weird. So, and we didn't have cell phones, so it's not like anybody texted 911, it's just, they're just cops. Um, but this film was sort of transformative for its time because it featured uh, a gay lead in a film. I mean, just right there, Al Pacino's character um, is got himself married to Chris Sarandon's man trapped in a woman's body looking for surgery to try to, transgender is the suggestion. 70s don't do that very well. They have characters sort of laughing, and um, he's suggested that he's in some sort of like medical hospital, like, I guess for the sexually insane. I don't know what we did to those people back then, but for some reason he wants to go back to the hospital that they took him from, where he's getting his treatment. He's very groggy when he first appears. And I didn't really know about like how to feel about this performance. I was like, I guess for 1975, the fact that this was on screen at a time when these kinds of people were not really being represented anywhere, even remotely authentically, and it was always kind of the thing that nobody wanted to talk about, even though most of the actors were at the time. So I don't really know, I don't know what to say about this performance. I don't want to represent the entire gay population on this film and make like a definitive thing here. So I'm going to say the way they did it in the 70s felt very 70s, but you got to start somewhere with some sort of representation. And sometimes that first representation is not great, but it's there. Um, and it leads to better representation, and we have something to talk about. It's sort of like learning to read. When you first learn to read, you're not great at it, and then you get better at it. So now we have better representation. So to look back on films like this, I guess it was a stepping stone to something better, but it's very weird how they present it. And I even had an even weirder time because they keep using the word homosexual, and I'm in the middle of watching Fellow Travelers, and I just heard his speech about how homosexual was a medical term that was being thrown. He's like, he says he's fighting for why they use the term gay and over homosexual, because he's like, at least we chose that, to define ourselves, and it wasn't chosen for us. So there you go. So those are my thoughts as my gay critic thoughts on this film. Now I have to go to blind thoughts on the film. Audio description was British and fine, but again, I just didn't always understand everything that was happening and why. I thought it was an interesting portrayal because these two guys, obviously, that are in there, are in there for a reason, and they're bank robbers and they have guns, but nobody's really that scared. I mean, the Stockholm syndrome sets in really fast. These women are not they don't seem that worried. Even the guy that's in there, the bank manager, doesn't seem too terribly worried. Nobody seems to be that concerned that, like, I don't know, these guys are in here and they got guns and we'll be fine. They don't seem like they're going to hurt us. I thought Charles Durning did a great job shouting at from outside. I don't know that we give Oscars for this, so I support the fact that he didn't get a nomination, but he did a good job of just being the cop sort of shouting at Pacino. It's funny how little they wanted to work with, uh, how they're like, no, we don't, we don't get, we can rerun the show out here. Look around. And I feel like the shows we make nowadays, we have like hostage negotiators that come in and they're like, can we get you a pizza? Like, they just like offer it like immediately. Like, you need anything in there? We just want to know. Meanwhile, out here, they're like hemming and hawing about things. And, and it's a very 70s movie, but it's very well made. Um, it does honestly feel like, and it's only because of, you're like, what else could they possibly put into this? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, it feels like it's so fast paced and it happens and it starts so quickly at the beginning that you're like, this is a 2 hour film. And I felt that, but I didn't feel like it was a 2 hour film when I was over with it. I didn't, I look back on it and I go, I think everything they included was great, but it's funny because you don't think that something is going to be included. You're like, we're not going to spend time on that. Oh, we did. Oh, we're not going to. No, okay. It's like they found really creative ways of fleshing out the script and making a 2 hour film, but you do obviously because there's something about being in a situation like this where you're like, this can't possibly go on for this whole movie, right? This is going to drag. Like, are they actually going to get on the plane and fly to another country at this point? There were times where I was sitting there looking at the runtime, just like, I don't know what's coming, but good Lord, I'm only an hour into this film and it already feels like, because it's not a film that's shot in real time, like it's not like every single moment. So it's not like it's just a 2 hour standoff. So time is passing and these events are happening and you're like, what else? What else you got? And then they got something else and you're like, I guess you got that. Oh, you got that too. So, I was impressed as the movie went on, but I also kept wondering. I was like, it felt kind of like The Return of the King, which has like eight possible endings, and it just goes with all of them. It's just when you get to the end of the film, you're just like, it feels like we're ending, and oh, we're not ending. Okay, we got another scene, and we're done. Oh no, we're still going. Kind of felt a little bit like that. Like, are we gonna wrap up? Like this review. So anyway, I will finish because there's really nothing else to say. People have been saying stuff about Dog Day Afternoon for years. Um, it's 70s. That's all I'll say. It feels of the 70s, and if I was in the 70s, I would be all over this film. Looking back on it, it's easy to point out some things and be like, that we don't do that anymore. That doesn't happen anymore. That's a bit much. Like he's on the phone with his wife, and his wife is obnoxious. I'm sorry, she is. She, and then she gets mad at him for yelling, and it's like, you literally have not stopped talking. Have not. It felt like you were given, like you're in an improv exercise and your instructor has told you to just keep talking, because she wasn't even talking about anything. She was just going around and around. She's like, oh, this is a caterpillar. Yes, your yacht is good. You just want to say where you are. And I was just like, oh my God. Oh my God. This woman. But yeah, so is it my favorite film of all time? No. Um, and if I was to take my 2023 hat and the fact that I was born after this film was made and try to analyze it from that perspective, I mean, time has not been kind to this film. I'm not 100% sure what to do with LGBT representation in this film. Part of it is just not really being able to see Chris Sarandon's character, to see how we're representing him, because I'm a little concerned that it's cartoonish. I don't want it to be cartoonish. That's where I get a little... The audio description on him wasn't great. He was wearing like a nightgown. That's all I got. Is that it? He's just wearing a nightgown? Maybe he is. Yeah, so there's a lot that's in my head about this film, but against my better judgment, I think there is a classic film here, and I think there's a film that is really strong. Um, but it just has a couple things where I'm just like, I don't know about that. I don't know about that. I don't know that I would have made that choice. And it's easy to be nitpicky on a film from 1975, especially a film that's a classic and it's a Best Picture nominee. And oh my God, won a lot of things. And but what it does right, I have to think about. I have to take all of the films that came after it, all the bank robbery films. I have to think about what did it do for 1975. So, um, with the caveat of not fully being able to see and comprehend the LGBT representation, put an asterisk after this. I'm going to give Dawn of the Afternoon an A with an asterisk. um, an A with a, based on the interpretation, the lack of audio description that I got, I don't know that this is offensive, but it could be. So we're going to keep it at an A. It's a classic, and um, when I was done with it, the runtime didn't bother me. It was just funny how it was. You're in a situation that you think is going to end at any moment, like this review, which ends now. Please subscribe. I have a website, macmovieguyy.com. You can go to the audio description project, adp.acb.org. It will let you know what has audio description where you can watch it. You can follow me on X, Threads, or Instagram at MacTheMovieGuy, and you can go to theadna.org. That's theadna.org. It'll let you know who's working on your favorite films and television series. That's it. I will watch something else that was nominated for something and see you guys on the other side.